Ever noticed how the UK's right-wing landscape is littered with groups like Reform UK, Rupert Lowell's Restore Britain, Advance UK, and Nick and Kearney's Rebooted UK, all sounding the alarm on immigration, culture wars, and saving Britain, yet constantly splitting, infighting, and chasing personal glory. They peddle a recycled neoconservative narrative of post-World War II Britain as a betrayed empire, but dig deeper and it's clear these are self-serving outfits more interested in donor cash, media hits, and building mini empires than uniting for real change. As George Lincoln Rockwell put bluntly, a National Socialist is someone who wants to save his race. A Conservative is someone who wants to save his money. They're so scared of losing their juicy jobs and their fancy homes. In 2026, with Reform pearling high but facing internal cracks, Rockwell's critique feels spot on. These groups protect their juicy jobs over their people, fragmenting the right for ego and profit. So why do figures like Nick Kearney and groups such as Restore Britain, Advance UK and Reform UK feel like variations on the same theme, despite their rivalries and breakaways? They're all drawn from the neoconservative post-World War II worldview, framing Britain as a noble nation, undermined by globalists, multiculturalism and elites. But underneath, it's often a self-promotion, fundraising and staying relevant rather than principled action. We'll break down their shared roots, the patterns of self-interest, echoing Rockwell's scathing take on Conservatives guarding their juicy jobs over their race or their people. At their core, these groups and figures recycle a neoconservative story born from post-World War II delusionment. Britain as a heroic victor against fascism, a sovereign, Christian and culturally unified nation that's since been betrayed by liberal elites, mass immigration and EU globalist ties, and woke cultural shifts. This narrative romanticizes the 1940s and 50s as a golden age of British exceptionalism, positioning current problems like demographic changes and economic stagnation and identity erosion as direct threats to that legacy. Reform UK under Nigel Farage embodies this with populist flair. Tough on borders, tax cuts for the working man in quotation, an anti-net zero and a Britain First vibe that marks back to imperial pride without the empire. Rupert Lowell's Restore Britain amps up the economic nationalism, calling for deregulation and traditional values to restore post-war prosperity, while criticising reform for being too soft. Advance UK pushes a similar advanced conservatism, blending free market ideas with cultural protectionism, often invoking Churchillian rhetoric. Nick Kearney, now leading a UKIP reboot, adds a muscular Christianity angle, anti-Islam, pro-family values, street activism, drawing from US neocon influences via Turning Point UK background. What ties them? A neocon blend, economically liberal, low taxes, limited state, socially conservative, anti-woke pro-nation, and hawkish on foreign policy, pro-NATO and anti-China Russia. They critique the establishment, but rarely challenge core systems like fiat money or corruption power. It's surface-level patriotism repackaged for clicks and donations, avoiding deeper critiques that might alienate donors or media gigs. George Lincoln Rockwell's 1960s critique of conservatives as cowards obsessed with conserving their money and status over their race or people cuts right through these modern groups. He mocked them as ostriches with heads in the sand, their plumbed up bottoms waving the breezes for the jays too scared of losing juicy jobs and comforts to fight real battles, preferring safe, profitable positions over sacrificial nationalism. Apply that here. Nick Kearney exemplifies the jump for clout pattern from Turning Point UK pushing US-style cultural wars to seizing UKIP leadership, where he amps Christian nationalism, mass deportation and alliances with figures like Calvin Robinson and Katie Hopkins. But it's self-promotion, street protests for viral moments, donor appeals, then pivots when heat rises. Rupert Lowell defects from reform to launch Restore Britain, claiming ideologically purity, harder on migration and economics, but it's ego-driven. Building a personal brand as the true conservative, complete with media appearances and fundraising drives, Advance UK stays niche but mirrors the grift, Britain First slogans, anti-woke campaigns but focused on small membership fees and online presence rather than mass mobilisation. Reform itself, despite polling leads, shows cracks. Farage centralises power with defections over strategy or scandals, turning it into a vehicle for his media career. Podcasts, GB News gigs, the lot. The cycle then joined Start Group, Say Controversy, anti-drag events, Tommy Robinson attracts delusional donors, voters, then split for principles, but really to carve personal niches. They fragment the same audience, ex-Tories, anti-immigration folks, protecting their juicy jobs, salaries, speaking fees, ex-influences, over uniting against the system. Just as Rockwell lambasted. Rockwell's point wasn't just an insult, it was a warning. Conservatives' fear of losing comforts leads to ineffectiveness, letting real threats to race, culture and sovereignty fester while they chase safe gains. In 2016, this hurts the right. Energy dissipates in infighting, voters get cynical from endless New Hope groups that fizzle, and the establishment, Labour Tories, benefits from a divided opposition. Reform might lead polls, but internally rouse and defections weaken it. Restore Britain's splits dilute momentum. Tenconi's activism grabbed headlines, but achieves little beyond his profile. No unified front on key issues like immigration caps or cultural preservation. Instead, ego battles and donor chases. True nationalism needs to sacrifice of self. Principles like Rockwell's unapologetic racial focus, or at least consistent action beyond grift. In a year of local elections and Labour struggles, unity could force change. Instead, these same cloth neocons protect their juicy jobs, leaving supporters delusioned. The way forward is, and how I would put it, demand accountability, back groups that prioritise people over personalities, and call out the cycle before it wastes more time. And with Rockwell's lines endures because it exposes the hypocrisy of the neocon retort. Sounds bold, but when it's shielded for personal gain, it crumbles under scrutiny. And we've observed in the crisis of the responses, quick protests for clout, but rare follow-through or coalition building, proving their self-interest like Nick Tenconi and Tommy Robinson. So anyway, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video about me talking about neocons and why they're actually cut from the same cloth. And obviously people will say that I'm sounding negative or I'm trying to bash certain people, which I've already criticised these people. I've already talked about reform, I've already talked a little bit about Advance UK and to do with Restore Britain and all these other people. And it's just constant cycle of, for example, with Reform now has also got a new foreigner, not the other guy that's recently joined, but the other one. And it's like, how many times are you gonna have first generation immigrants in your party? It's just kind of pathetic. It's just like, what is the point? Like I understand it's hard to find talented people, you know, that you maybe want for media department or policy writing, but you have to rely on actual foreigners, and it's just cut and cringe. I mean, I saw the other day there was this, I think it was a post of activism from Reform, and it's literally just full of foreigners. I literally shot all of the people in the pictures that I've seen for Reform activism, including the one that I've seen, are just filled with foreigners. And it's just like, why do you have to cook so hard? Like, I was arguing with someone in the gym the other day about Reform and how shit their policies are, and it's just like, these people are just like basically just right-wing liberals that just basically just want their okay on immigration just legally, but they don't understand that legally it's even worse with like 400,000 people in per year, and even then they're always on scam visas. Like, I was speaking to one of the guys from Homeland, and he said that, you know, a lot of these people, because he works in software development, is that all of these people like Indians and Nigerians all come from scam visas. And it's just like, these neocons, what they do is they're okay with that if that contributes with GDP, or if, let's say that, oh, if they've been in the country 5 years and they pay taxes. It's just pathetic, it's weak, and these people are just pussies. These people don't actually want to actually have cultural change. And obviously, I think Tenconi said on a recent live stream that when it comes down to, he said that Rupert Lowell and, what was it, Nigel Farage were basically just playing identity politics. But I think when it comes down to Nick Kearney, I think one of the protests, especially what happened in Epping, he actually ended up, I think he turned up 2 weeks late or something, or he basically turned up late, and he basically just embarrasses himself with all these, like, I guess, mass deportation rallies, and they never do anything, and it's because it's not tactical, it's not surgical, compared to Epping when the Homelanders went in and they actually made sure that some of the migrant hotels are shut down. You have to do these things tactically, but these people just kind of just want it for clout. They just show up, especially like Tommy Robinson. And I will admit that, yeah, he's got better numbers street-wise because he's got, you know, friends. He can organise a little bit better in the streets because he's been around for a while, compared to ethnic nationalists where basically there'd only be like a handful of people that show up, which is true. But I guess there's, quality over quantity. If you have a lot of people who are ethnic nats who don't want these migrant hotels in, compared to just doing a demo in London, taking money off people. In fact, I think Tommy Robinson actually did, for example, when Peter Lynch died in prison, he actually took the money from the donors and actually ran off with the money. He actually took the donation, so he didn't actually give it to the family. He just basically just took his money and left. And that's the thing, Peter Lynch's family actually wanted the money, and he said, oh, no, they didn't, when they clearly did. And yeah, this is the problem with these spaces. They're just not hard enough or hardline enough. And I think that, you know, if you're a proper nationalist, you want to be hardline and be open about race. And yeah, Rockall wasn't successful in the sense that obviously he got assassinated, but his points that he made, like even attending like rallies, black rallies like Malcolm X and a few other ones, I do think that when you're bold and you're in that position, it's good, but obviously you don't have to be completely unhinged, you don't have to start slurs, you can come off as just a normal person and also being a nationalist. But again, I think these people in neocon spaces are just too scared to actually speak out against, oh yeah, our race is erasing, our culture is erasing, our identity is erasing, and it's very hard to actually preserve that when you have these so-called neocons saying that they'll be hard on immigration, but they're okay with it legally, as I said, to do with reform and their weak policies, and also to do with Restore Britain. Because if you look at a lot of the things that Rupert Lowell does, he obviously doesn't make his own posts, he's either paying someone to do it, probably a foreigner, or you just see these people and it's just like, yeah, like I said, it's quite vague. But anyway, I don't want to ramble too much about that. And as well, if you want to click on these videos here where I've talked about other aspects of this, including Reform UK and other parts of this, I'll talk about those a little bit more in detail. And before I click on this video, I have a link in the description with links to my Discord and my other socials as well.